Since the study of language in use as a goal of education, a means of education, and an instrument of social culture, control, and social change is the principal concern of applied linguistics, it is easy to see why discourse analysis has such a vital part to play in the work that applied linguistics does, and why so much of the work that has been done over the last few decades on developing the theory and practices of discourse analysis been done by applied linguistics, or by linguistics, notably by Halliday and his followers, for whom the integration of theory and practice is a defining feature of the kind of linguistics that they do. Today, I am here to discuss about discourse analysis. But first, let us define what is discourse. According to Wikipedia, discourse is a language above the sentence level. Discourse is more than just language use. Discourse constitutes the social, distinguished knowledge, social relation, and social identity. The analysis of discourse is the analysis language in use. Language as an instrument of communication whose expression is discourse. The analysis of the function of language can be referred to as discourse analysis. Discourse analysis or discourse studies is a general term for a number of approaches to analyze written, vocal, or sign language use or any significant semiotic event. Semiotic. What do you mean by semiotic? Semiotic or semiotics, also called semiotic studies, is the study of meaning making, the study of sign process or semiosis, and meaningful communication. It is not to be confused with Saussurean tradition, or according to Saussure, called semiology, which is a subset of semiotics. This includes the study of signs and sign processes, indication, designation, likeness, analogy, allegory, metonymy, metaphor, symbolism, signification, and communication. The objects of discourse analysis, or if you say discourse, it is writing, conversation, communicative event, are variously defined in terms of coherent sequences of sentence, proposition, speech, or turn at talk. Discourse analysis is the examination of language used by members of a speech community. It involves looking at both language form and language function, and includes the study of both spoken interaction and written text. It identifies linguistic features that characterize different genres, as well as social and cultural factors that aid in our interpretation and understanding of different texts and types of talk. A discourse analysis of written text might include a study of topic development and a cohesion across the sentences, while an analysis of spoken language might focus on these aspects plus turn-taking practice, opening and closing sequences of social encounters or narrative structures. Thus, discourse analysis takes different theoretical perspective and analytic approaches like speech act theory, interactional sociolinguistics, ethnography of communication, pragmatics, conversation analysis, and variation analysis by Striffen, 1994. Although each approach emphasizes different acts of language use, they all view social language as a social interaction. So social interactions means how people talk to each other. It focuses on the application of discourse analysis to second language teaching and learning. It provides example of how teachers can improve their teaching practices by investigating actual language used both in and out of the classroom, and how students can learn language through exposure to different types of discourse. Discourse analysis and second language teaching. Even with the most communicative approaches, the second language classroom is limited in its ability to develop learners' communicative competence in the target language. This is due to the restricted number of contact hours with the language. Like in our school, we have only 1 hour for English class or English subject. Minimal opportunities for the interacting with native speakers. Here in the Philippines, we normally not encounter foreigners to talk in English. So if we cannot talk with people using the language, we cannot practice the language. And also, limited exposure to the variety of functions like genres, or our children today doesn't watch English movies or English films or or rather they will read English novels, and discourse types that occurs outside the classroom. Given the limited time available for students to practice a target language, like what I've said, we only have 1 hour to teach English in our English class or in our school. Teachers should maximize opportunities for students' participation. But in our case, sometimes students cannot understand English, understand English, and they cannot speak the language fluently. Classroom research is one way for teachers to monitor both the quantity and the quality of of students' output. By following a 4-part process of record, view, transcribe, analyze. Second language teacher can use discourse analytic techniques to investigate the interaction patterns in their classrooms and to see how these patterns promote or hinder opportunities for learners and to practice the target language. This process allows language teachers to study their own teaching behavior, specifically the frequency, distribution, and type of questions that they will use and their effect on students' responses. Step 1. Videotape a complete lesson. Be sure to capture all of all of your questions and the students' responses. Opportunities to speak the target language are often created by teachers' question. Step 2. Watch the videotape. As you watch it, think about the types of questions you ask. Look for recurring patterns in your questioning style and the impact it has on the students' responses. So you will try to look on the responses of the students according to your questions or according to the questions that you've given to them. Step 3. Transcribe the lesson. A transcript will make it easier to identify the types of questions in the data and to focus on the specific questions and students' responses. And step 4, analyze the videotape and transcript. Why did you ask these questions? What type of questions was it? Open or closed? What points do you think the authors was making in the chapters you read yesterday? Or closed? Did you like the chapter? The objects of discourse analysis, or what you call discourse, when you say discourse, it is writing, conversation, or communicative event, are variously defined in terms of coherent sequences of sentences, propositions, speech, or turn at talk. Contrary to much of traditional linguistics, discourse analysis not only study language used beyond the sentence boundary, but also prefer to analyze naturally occurring language use, not invented examples. Text linguistics is a closely related field. The essential difference between discourse analysis and text linguistics is that discourse analysis aims at revealing socio-psychological characteristic of a person or persons rather than text structure. Discourse analysis had been taken up at a variety of disciplines in the humanities and social sciences, including linguistics, education, sociology, anthropology, social work, cognitive psychology, social psychology, area studies, cultural studies, international relations, human geography, communication studies, biblical studies, and translation studies, each of which is subject to its own assumptions, dimension of analysis, and methodologies. Topics of discourse analysis include the various levels or dimension of discourse, such as sounds, when it sounds you, the intonation, and others, and then gestures, syntax, the lexicon, style, rhetoric, meaning or meanings, speech acts, moves, strategies, turns, and other aspect of interaction. Wherein genre, or we use genres of discourse, or we have various types of discourse in politics, media, education, science, and business. The relations between discourse and the emergence of syntactic structure. The relation between text and context. The relation between discourse and power. The relations between discourse and interaction. The relationship or the relation between discourse and cognition and memory. What is discourse analysis? Discourse analysis is an increasingly popular and important area of language study. It discusses not only about language itself, but also how it relates with society, culture, and thought. It is used to describe activities in several disciplines such as linguistics, social linguistics, and psycholinguistics. I will present to you three approaches that includes speech act theory, ethnography of communication, and pragmatics. Speech act theory. According to Austin, speech act theory focuses on communicative acts which are performed through speech. The speech act theory is applicable to discourse analysis. It provides a framework in which to identify the conditions underlying the production and understanding of an utterance as a particular linguistically realized action. For example, in the classroom situation, the students were asked to perform a skit or a role-playing of giving directions or asking permission, or maybe just by asking or just by how to order a food in the restaurant, or how will they greet a person using English language, or maybe how will they tell a person a promise or promising, and also how will they invite their friends or relatives in a party, or how will they invite the family members to attend a particular party. Ethnography of communication. The ethnography of communication is an approach to discourse which is based on linguistics and anthropology. This approach tries to analyze patterns of communicative practices, and such practices are an integrated part of what one knows and does as a member of a particular culture. Ethnography of communication, formerly called ethnography of speaking, is the analysis of communication within the wider context of the social and cultural practices and beliefs of the member of a particular culture or speech community. It is a method of discourse analysis in linguistics that draws on the anthropological field of ethnography. Unlike ethnography proper, though EOC or ethnography of communication takes into account both the communicative form, which may include but is not limited to spoken language and its function within the given culture. For example, the students in the classroom, we will determine on how they use the language outside the classroom. Like for example, it is our problem that the students are not using the language outside the classroom because the students are likely not to use them because of the use of the mother tongue. Delheims proposed the ethnography of communication as an approach towards analyzing patterns of language used within speech communities in order to provide support for his idea of communicative competence, which itself was a reaction to Noam Chomsky's distinction between linguistic competence and linguistic performance. Communicative competence is a term in linguistics which referred to as a language user's grammatical knowledge of syntax, morphology, phonology, and the like, as well as social knowledge about how and when to use utterances appropriately. In linguistic competence is the system of linguistic knowledge possessed by native speakers of a language, and it's distinguished from linguistic performance, which is the way a language system is used in communication. When you say linguistic performance, the term linguistic performance was used by Noam Chomsky in 1960 to describe the actual use of language in concrete situation. It is used to describe both the production or how the words came from their mouth, sometimes called parole, as well as the comprehension or how the comprehension of language or how the person understands the language. The last approach is the pragmatics. Pragmatics is a study of practical aspect of human action and thought. The study of the use of linguistic signs, words, and sentences in actual situation. The study of meaning in the interactional context. It looks beyond the literal meaning of an utterance and considers how meaning is constructed as well as focusing on implied meanings. It considered language as an instrument of interaction, what people mean when they use language, and how we communicate and understand each other. Jenny Thomas says that pragmatics considers the negotiation of meaning between speaker and listener, the context of utterance, and the meaning potential of an utterance. What would happen to language if pragmatics did not exist? Pragmatics act as the basis for all language, interaction, and contact. It is a key feature to the understanding of language and the responses that follow this. Therefore, without the function of pragmatics, there would be very little understanding of intention and meaning. What would happen to language if pragmatics did not exist? Pragmatics act as the basis for all language, interactions, and contact. It is the key feature to the understanding of language and the responses that follow this. Therefore, without the function of pragmatics, there would be very little understanding of intention and meaning. I would like to demonstrate this by showing you how life would be without pragmatics. For example, can you pass the soap? Literal meaning, are you physically able to do this task? Literal response would be, yes. Pragmatic meaning, will you pass me the salt? Pragmatic response would be, pass the salt to the speaker. Another example would be, what time do you call this? Literal meaning would be, what time is it? Literal response, a time. For example, 20 to 1. Pragmatic meaning would be a different questions entirely. Why are you so late? Pragmatic response would be, explain the reason for being so late.